No one in the town of Ash Creek ventured into the woods after dark. The dense forest had always held an air of mystery, but it was only in recent years that it had gained a reputation for being cursed. Legend had it that a creature lurked deep within, its howls echoing through the trees on moonless nights, luring the unsuspecting to their doom. Anyway, Evelyn had heard the stories all her life. Her grandmother used to tell her tales of the Howling Woods, warning her never to stray too close. But Evelyn was curious by nature, and as she grew older, her skepticism grew. She was a photographer, always seeking the extraordinary, and the thought of capturing something as elusive as the creature of the Howling Woods was too tempting to resist. One evening, just before the sun dipped below the horizon, Evelyn packed her camera and set out for the woods. She was determined to find proof that the creature was nothing more than a figment of the townspeople's imagination. As she entered the forest, the air grew colder, and the familiar sounds of the town faded away, replaced by the eerie silence of the woods. The deeper she ventured, the more the trees seemed to close in around her. The path she had been following disappeared, swallowed by the thick underbrush. But Evelyn pressed on, her excitement growing with each step. She was going to be the one to debunk the myth once and for all. As night fell, the darkness became almost tangible, wrapping around her like a shroud. The moon was hidden behind thick clouds, casting the forest into pitch blackness. Evelyn flicked on her flashlight, the beam cutting through the dark, but the trees seemed to absorb the light, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Then she heard it, a low, mournful howl far in the distance. It was unlike any sound she had ever heard, a mix of anguish and rage that sent a shiver down her spine. But Evelyn was not easily frightened. She raised her camera, ready to capture whatever was making the noise. The howl came again, closer this time. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She adjusted her camera settings, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She was going to get her shot. Suddenly, the underbrush rustled to her left. She swung her flashlight in the direction of the sound, but saw nothing. The howling grew louder, more insistent, as if it was calling to her. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine, but she shook it off. She had come this far. She wasn't about to turn back now. She pushed through the dense foliage, her flashlight flickering as the batteries began to die. The howling was deafening now, echoing all around her. Evelyn's pulse quickened. She was close. She could feel it. Without warning, the ground gave way beneath her feet. She tumbled down a steep embankment, her flashlight flying out of her hand. She hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of her. Dazed, she tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in her ankle forced her back down. Gritting her teeth, she looked around for her flashlight, but it was nowhere to be seen. The darkness pressed in on her, and the howling seemed to be coming from all directions now. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead as the reality of her situation set in. She was trapped, alone in the dark, with something terrifyingly close. The howling stopped abruptly, replaced by the sound of heavy breathing. Evelyn's heart raced as she tried to locate the source of the noise. Her eyes had begun to adjust to the darkness, and she could just make out a shape moving toward her, slow and deliberate. It was massive, its hulking form barely visible in the shadows. Evelyn froze, her breath caught in her throat. The creature's eyes glowed a sickly yellow in the dark, and its breath came in ragged, guttural gasps. It sniffed the air, its head jerking in her direction. Evelyn's mind screamed at her to run, but her body refused to move. The creature stepped closer, its massive claws scraping against the ground. It let out a low growl, a sound that reverberated through Evelyn's entire body. She could feel its hot breath on her face, the stench of decay filling her nostrils. She knew in that moment that there was no escape. With a sudden, ferocious snarl, the creature lunged at her. Evelyn raised her arms in a futile attempt to protect herself, but it was too late. The last thing she saw was its gaping maw, filled with razor-sharp teeth, descending upon her. The next morning, the people of Ash Creek found Evelyn's camera near the edge of the woods. The memory card was intact, filled with photos of the forest at night. The last image was a blurred, dark shape, barely discernible, but unmistakably monstrous. Evelyn was never seen again. The townspeople mourned her loss, but were not surprised. They knew better than to enter the Howling Woods after dark. The creature had claimed another victim, and its legend would only grow stronger. And on moonless nights, the howls continued, echoing through the trees, a warning to all who dared venture too close to the cursed forest.